Hello, Annabel.
Hello,
How you doing?
I'm doing quite well right now. A little stressed, but honestly, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm a little sore after the race today. I know it's
Oh.
a shame we couldn't have you out there running with us, but
All good.
yeah. So how are you feeling? How's your recovery going?
It's honestly going a lot better than I thought. I think the first 2 weeks were really difficult just mentally. Coming to terms that I've been running since the age of 12 without a break, and this is my first ever break. And so that was really hard just to wrap my head around, but I think honestly it's been really good. It's healing a lot faster than we thought, which is really nice. So yeah, it's going well, and hopefully I'll be out of it by next Wednesday, which is really exciting.
Out of the boot?
Yeah, out of the boot and just slowly working up bike workouts. So that'll be really good.
When do they think you can start running again?
Ooh, I would have to ask my doctor that, but they are hoping early December, maybe mid-December, so maybe like a month from now, which I'm not complaining about, just any sort of exercise.
Oh.
I'm grateful at this point for it.
Give you plenty of time to get ready for track season.
Yes, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be ready for that.
Yeah, well, usually I like to start with people's stories of how they came to Gordon, but your story goes a little bit further back than that because you're originally from the UK.
I am.
So I want to ask you, tell me what it was like growing up there, and then
Sure.
what brought your family to the States, and kind of compare living in the two countries.
Of course, yeah. So I was born out in Eastbourne, England, in the United Kingdom. My dad is originally from Scotland, and my mother is from England. So she is from the south, he is from the north. And we lived out there for a couple of years until 2003. And that's when my dad got a job as a doctor out here in the United States. And he said, why not? Let's go for it. I think a lot of my family was really hesitant because that's 3,000 miles from family, which is really hard at times. But we just said, why not? Let's go for it. So we came out to North Carolina one summer, and we thought it'd be like maybe a 4 or 5 year thing, just see how it goes. Ended up being 13 plus years now, and I've been living in the States ever since. And yeah, it's been interesting. I definitely miss the UK, and I would love to go back there eventually, maybe for a longer period of time than a couple weeks in the summer, especially just because, my family is getting older and they're growing up, which is ridiculous. And I would just love to spend more time with them, especially just not when, they're working out their lives and I'm working out mine, but just for a long period of time. But there's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities, with culture and little names here and there. There's some things where I'll be like, wait, what are you talking about? But then other things I'll be like, wait, that's a thing over in the UK, but not out here, and vice versa, which is really funny. For example, my roommate the other day, she was like, oh, I didn't realize whitening strips were just a US thing. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. And she was like, oh, well, British people do have awful teeth, which, if you don't know, is a running joke in the United Kingdom, which is fair. But that was really just funny, little things like that, which I was like, oh, I've never thought about that before. This is a thing out in the US, but not so much in the United Kingdom. So that's really what it's like being, an immigrant in the States on the surface level.
Yeah, so I have family that's kind of the opposite.
Really?
My dad's younger sister,
Mm-hmm.
her husband had a job transfer out. He used to work for Barclays.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's still his position, but
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of the same thing. He was expecting he'd only go over there for a year or two, and God had other plans, and they've been there for the last 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
So I've gotten the chance to visit them once, and then I went to Scotland my junior year.
No way.
On a class trip as well.
That's amazing.
But the one thing I remember from going to London to visit my family is one of our last days there, there's a Five Guys in town.
Yes, there
And
is.
even the cashier was telling us, the burgers are probably going to be better in the States than they are here. But
Interesting.
yeah, it was interesting to see because, they're even the things that kind of are the same, are they really the same?
Exactly. Yeah, little things. I know, with just, for example, when you go to the grocery store, the thing you push around a grocery cart out here, but then every time I go back, they're like, oh, grab the trolley. And I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, grocery cart. I'm like, oh, my bad. So it's little things like that, which is really funny. Now as I get older, I'm like, oh, if I ever have kids or if I ever, become an art therapist and, have little kiddos I'm helping out, little lingos like that come out. So
Yeah.
we shall see.
That's actually my research paper right now for my English
No
class
way.
is comparing American and British English.
That's
So,
fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing the research for that.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Yeah, well, like for me as an F1 fan, watching the races over in Europe compared to like watching NASCAR here in the States, like it was weird for me when I first got into it to see like they spell tire with a Y and
We do.
a checkered flag with a QU instead of a CK.
Yes, little things
So,
like
yeah.
that. And even pronunciation. Like,
Yeah,
there's
and things like, like team is considered a plural word because like a team of multiple people. So they say the team have really been working hard this weekend instead of the team has had a good season or things like that. So
Yes. I forgot about that one.
yeah, just little differences here and there, even though we can certainly still understand each other very well, and it's still the same language. It's interesting to consider those things.
It's fascinating. Very quirky, but fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, so tell me how you came to Gordon.
So my brother actually got me into Gordon because when he was going to senior year of high school, he did Elevate, which is a leadership lab out here in the summer. He did that for a week, absolutely loved it. And he was like, oh, like if, our college counselor talks about it, you should say you're interested. So, I love my brother. So I went up to her and was like, I'm interested, even though I was only a freshman in high school. And when the time came, I was actually nominated to apply, and I applied and was accepted, which I'm incredibly thankful for. And that's when I first came onto campus in the summer of 2017, was just for this intensive week with no sleep, learning how to be better leaders within our communities and within like our respective countries, which was absolutely incredible. And it was really, just beautiful getting to see the campus. I mean, it was quiet because obviously it's in the summer and there were no students there. But that was when I first heard of Gordon. And then I kind of just went into my junior year being like, okay, a great, fallback school, small Christian, beautiful part of the country. I actually was looking at fashion schools and art schools at the time. So I wasn't really particularly interested in going to a small liberal arts college. I knew that was like the other type if the whole art world didn't work out. That was like a great option because I knew so many people who had gone here and really enjoyed it. So junior comes around and I'm like, people are like, oh, you should consider Gordon. And I was like, no, but I really want to go to art school. Like, I really feel like it's my calling. And then when I started touring art schools, that's when I was like, oh, wow. Like, I kept people kept reminding me about it and telling me about it. And I was like, oh, this is actually something I definitely want to consider. And, 2-3 years later, here I am.
What other schools were you looking at for art?
I was looking at London College of Fashion, Central St. Martin's, Fashion Institute of Technology, and then Savannah College of Art and Design down in Savannah, Georgia. So all pretty large competitive schools with a highly intensive concentration in fashion and a lot of other incredible art programs. Because that's what I always thought I was going to do since age 14, but God had other plans, and it's really exciting to see that fall into place.
Did you say something about London?
Yes.
So you were considering going back?
I really thought God was calling me back. I was like, this is my time. This is my chance to go back to my people, be close to family. I actually ended up didn't even make an interview process when I applied to Central St. Martin's, which I knew, going into that, their acceptance rate is around, for this one program, around 2% out of the 30,000 so applicants they get. So I knew my chance was slim, but I just wanted to, test the waters, see if, God was saying this is your time to come home. And it wasn't. But, we'll try again. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I know you from cross country and track.
Yes.
I think you said you've been running since you were 12, right?
I have been.
So how did that get started?
So it all started actually after I went to go watch the 2012 Summer Olympics, which were in London. Yes, which were in London. I went to go see.
So are you still in the UK at this point, or have you moved to the States by then?
I have moved to the States, but we were visiting family.
Okay.
They were like, oh my word, come out. We have tickets to go see rowing, which is really ironic because my brother ended up becoming a rower. So we were like, let's go. And that summer, Jessica Ennis, a British heptathlon athlete, actually won gold, which was monumental because I don't think something like that has happened in a very long time or actually ever. And I remember seeing her and being like, wow, I want to run track. And so I finally, sports started in 6th grade at my school. So I was like, this is it. I'm going to do track. This is going to be great. I'll do basketball in the winter, but that'll be just training and I'll get into track. And then I did track, absolutely loved it. Everyone's like, you should do cross country. And I was like, no, I don't really want to. Distance isn't my thing. I want to be a sprinter. Oh, the irony. And I actually decided to try out for tennis because in the UK, all my family, they're really good at tennis or just absolutely love tennis. So I was like, I'll do it. And I trained, I tried out, I completely got cut. To be fair, I had no hand-eye coordination. He was like, you're a great person, I'm a great personality, but you're more of a ball girl than a tennis girl. And I remember being like, wow, athletics just isn't my thing. This is a nightmare. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then the cross-country coach emailed me and was like, hey, little birdie told me, my mom told her that I had gotten cut from tennis. And she was like, you should try out for cross-country. And I was like, no way. I am not doing this at all. Like, I am not running a distance at all. No, it was like 1.2 miles. Just that would be the race. It was nothing. But I remember meeting with her and she was like, you should just try it even if you hate it. And I said, you know what? Why not? And so in the fall of 2013, I did my first ever cross-country season. And it's been, same as ever since. I've been going since then and absolutely loved it. And I'm really thankful that she just said to me, like, hey, I know you got cut. And the AD also said this to me. She just looked at me and said, hey, I know you got cut, but this is going to be your thing. And I know it's hard now, but it's all going to be worth it in the end. And it really has been. And so that's how I got into running.
So you did basketball and tennis as well?
Yes, I used to tear it up on the courts as a middle schooler. Yeah,
puny. What position?
I was defense, and I was, I think, a point guard. Actually, for a little bit.
So you're bringing the ball down the court?
Yeah. I'd bring the ball down the court because I was the tallest person on my team at a whopping 5'4". Apparently I would get really in people's faces, so they needed someone loud and proud just tearing it down the court in middle school. But then I got to high school and was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I am puny and have no chance at, getting good at basketball. So I retired in basketball and focused my attention on running.
Yeah, that was my second sport too.
No way.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I just not built for it. I love the game and I love playing casually.
Yes.
But when it came to, I don't know. I think I averaged like 1 or 2 points per game. It wasn't really my thing at that level.
Totally
if I had dedicated more time to it, I'm sure I could have gotten better. But
same here. I feel that. Yeah, I think if I, as my brother said, gained 20 pounds and actually put on some muscle, then maybe I could be a good basketball player. But I think I'm built for running as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so you brought up tennis. I have to ask.
Yes.
Have you been to Wimbledon?
I have not, no.
Okay.
But
that was like my day one trip when I went. Going to visit.
You've been?
Yes.
Oh my word, that is a dream of mine. Oh my word. Yeah, I have wanted to go and I've, driven by the courts before and I've heard it's an incredible experience. I have been to actually some, incredible tennis matches and seen some really incredible people, but I've not been yet. No, I've been needing to.
Yeah, I just went to tour the place. I didn't go to see.
Wait, you got an inside tour?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I got to see where they hold the press conferences and center court and everything.
That's amazing. Actually, fun fact about Wimbledon, my mom worked there when she was in college.
Nice.
Yeah, and she actually this past summer was like, oh, I have this polo from when I worked at Wimbledon. Do you want it? And it has like the Wimbledon embroidery from the year that she worked. And I'm just like, when did you do this? It was absolutely incredible. But yeah, so I have connections to it, but I've never been. But that's incredible you've been.
Yeah. It was right after, so I guess it was 15. And I think Andy Murray, I always forget because I think he won gold at the Olympics, which were in London, and then he won Wimbledon the next year.
Yes,
right?
in 2013. Yes, in 2013 he did.
Yeah. So the tour guide couldn't go 5 minutes without bringing up Andy Murray in Wimbledon.
We love Andy Murray.
Yeah. He would say, so this part of the exhibit was added in 2013, which also happened to be the year Andy Murray won Wimbledon.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Us Brits held that close and near and dear to our hearts when he won back-to-back. And then I think got silver in the doubles. So he was just tearing it up those 2 years. Yeah.
Well, when was the last time a British player won it before? It had been years, right?
Yeah, it had been years. And it's been a while since a Brit has won since then. But yeah, it was, again, like Jessica Ennis, it was one of those few times where it's like, hey, Britain's actually doing quite well this time. So I think the home court advantage really helped out.
Do you follow any other sports professionally?
I follow rowing here and there, mainly Carolina rowing, because my brother Robert, he rowed at Carolina for 4 years and now rows at a club level. So besides that, I don't really follow anything else that much.
Did you ever think of trying rowing yourself?
I wanted to, and I asked my brother, I was like, Robert, what would you think if I rowed? He was like, no, you would be great in the cox position, which is basically the very end of the boat, and you just yell at the rowers for the entire race. So I was like, okay, guess I'll stick to running. And he was like, as you should. But I would love to try, I think, one day if I was ever given the opportunity to get in the boat. But for now, I have not tried it.
Yeah, so do you have any running stories from before you got to Gordon that you want to share?
I think... if I was to share, I'd probably talk about my senior year in high school because it was such a chaotic season, yet I feel like it was a season I needed to prove that I am, a strong person and I'm a strong individual and that, how much I like running means to me. And that season I went into it, I was like, this is my senior year. I'm going to break the school record. We're going to win conference. We're going to get in like top 5 for states. This is going to be our year. We have a bunch of fast freshmen. We have some more juniors, which we haven't seen in a while. I was named captain. I was feeling so good and so excited about this. But then as the season progressed, I got horribly, horribly sick. And it was really frustrating because the biggest thing it took a toll on was running. Like I was originally maybe like a 22, 23 type of runner. I actually went to all of a sudden now a 25, 26, even 27, like minute 5K, which I was just like, what is going on? And I remember praying for so long, being like, God, I thought this was my time to shine. I thought this was my season. Like, what happened? And I remember him just like one night, I think it was right before I was going into surgery, and I remember being like, God, like, please, please, please show me your path and show me your way. And I just remember hearing just him saying, Annabel, be patient. It all works out. And I was just like, okay, we'll do it. And, I kept fighting. I kept taking care of myself. It was really hard because a lot of people were worried about me. But I remember getting to conference, and I think I got 10th in conference. And I was like, okay, we can do this. We got team-wise, we got second by like 5-7 points. And I was like, okay, we can go into states really well. And I was like, we're not going to have stomach pain. I'm going to be patient. It's all going to play out. We get to states, and it is pouring. There's probably around between 6 to 10 inches of water on the course, mud everywhere. It is a predominantly like grassy and trail course. So it is just a slip and slide the entire time. And I remember being like, okay, this is your last race. And this is where the fun begins. So let's go after it. And we actually ended up, I think, getting around our top, like around 4 or 5 girls in the top 30. And we actually got 5th in the state, which we hadn't gone any girl team in the top 5 since like 2011. And that was in 2018. So it was incredible to think that like, although I didn't break any school records and that like I didn't have the season I wanted, as a team, we really proved to ourselves that like this young group of girls have the power to push through anything and just, break so many expectations that we had. And I was just like, oh wow, God, like you really proved that, one, be patient. It all really does work out in the end. And then secondly, like just because it's my senior year doesn't mean it's about me. And I think that's probably one of my greatest stories from running, was just that whole entire season in 2018. Oh, such a good time. Crazy, but such a good time.
Well, that's a nice segue into your running career here at Gordon.
Yes.
So you came last year.
Yeah. Wide-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Yeah. So tell me about last season. How it went for you from preseason at Levita to
New England.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was really excited. I had really hard seasons the 2 prior because in 2017, I got diagnosed with anxiety, which really upset my running and performance anxiety. So I was a mess before that. 2018, diagnosed with IBS, which was why I was, not feeling great. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I remember saying to my mom, I was like, I'm really afraid I'm going to get sick. And she was like, no, this is going to be your season. So I went with that mentality of like, Lord, you've been so good to me. You brought me to college. Let's get after it. And it was a great season. I was feeling really good. I had amazing peer mentors by my side. And I was just so excited. I was like, I finally made it to the collegiate level, which I never would have guessed I'd be running at college. And I was doing really well. The first race I ran, I broke my PR by, I think, like 30, 45 seconds, which was really exciting. And every meet, I was just dropping it. I was starting in the 22s, then I went to 21s. And then I got to 20, which was like 20:45, I think, which I know for a lot of people isn't that fast. But for me, I was like, oh my word, like this is incredible. Like I never thought I'd run that fast. And I remember just being like, this is really good. However, that sadly all went downhill last October, and it was at the Franklin Park meet with that infamous hill. And I remember running that race. I remember crossing the finish line and just being like, oh my word, something is wrong. I don't feel good. I was just, for some reason, shaking. I felt incredibly dizzy. I couldn't really feel, I just felt numb from like my lower back down. And I remember Bridget Hill just looked at me and she's like, you don't look okay. And I was like, I don't feel good. And, coach was just like, a lot of us just thought, even me, I was like, oh, I need some electrolytes in my system. I'm just tired. It's the end of the quarter. But as the season progressed and as we kept working out, it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I couldn't even just like walk to class without feeling the need that I was going to collapse on the ground. And it was really scary because by the time New England's came, they're, like coach and the whole team were excited. We're, antsy, we just came off a really good taper week. And I remember just being like, I am so exhausted and we don't know what's wrong with me. And I got to New England's and it was just a disaster. I couldn't run. I just felt incredibly ill. And I did run that day, even though a lot of people and a lot of doctors were saying I shouldn't. And I just remember getting to the finish line, absolutely collapsing, blacking out. Carly and Evan had to like drag me across the finish line. And I was just like, oh no, this isn't good. And it was a really hard first season because I think I was just so excited for some, quote, normality and just some healthiness to it. But, it didn't go the way I wanted to. And, it's frustrating because now, we've lost track of last year, my freshman season track. And then, this year I'm in a boot. So it's like, oh my. But, I think it was a wake-up call, honestly, of God just telling me that, hey, this is college and you got to start taking care of yourself. Yes, it's important to love others, but like at the same time, you have to look out for yourself and you have to take care of yourself. And so I think freshman year, honestly, was just a really good reality check. But I can only say that now, looking back a year on. So that was really my freshman season. Just a good reality check.
Did you get to run at Bowdoin, or were you still?
I did. So where is this Bowdoin
in track, the indoor?
Oh yes, I did
meet.
Run at Bowdoin. That was a hot mess because that was my first race with getting diagnosed with IgA nephropathy. And I remember just being like, my doctor was like, you're good to go. You'll be great. Just take care of yourself. And I had not taken care of myself that week. I had a lot of emotional, just emotional baggage just on my chest. And I remember just being like, it's only a mile. This is my first indoor race. I'll be fine. And it wasn't. It was a disaster. But, I was like, I had a bad week. Life happens. And my incredible teammates, like Hannah Hansen, she just said, you're not okay, but that's okay. And you're going to pick yourself back up and you'll get back to where you need to be. And she was right. I really got back to where I need to be. And it was definitely, that one was a disaster, but I'm fortunate that I got to run it because it really just showed to me that it's like, hey, despite everything going on, at least you can still run a mile.
Yeah. So when the lockdowns hit,
yes.
Everybody gets sent home. Mm-hmm. Like, was that actually, I feel like in some ways that might actually be helpful for you, given everything you were going through, to have some downtime to recover. Mm-hmm. How did you handle lockdowns? As
bratty as this sounds, and no, I just want to say this before I get into my story. It breaks my heart, everything that's happened and the amount of people that have died because of COVID-19. And it really breaks my heart how people, don't listen to it and don't listen to science and what's going on. But personally, for me, I needed to go home and I needed time away from Gordon, although I was only a freshman. I had completely burned out. I was really miserable. I was not happy here. I was contemplating whether God had called me to the right place. Was this where I needed to be? Why would God bring me somewhere where in the first year being there, I completely burnt out and was completely exhausted. I wasn't really sleeping well. I wasn't eating enough as I should have. My anxiety was through the roof. And when we got the notification that we'd be extending our spring break and a lot of classes would be going online, and then, the whole semester would be online, I was honestly really thankful. And I was really thankful that God just said, you need this break to take care of yourself, and that you need to remind yourself of how worthy you are and how strong you are. And so it was honestly, like, despite being at home, it was, as an extrovert, it was honestly nice just having that introvert time, just to take care of myself and just to really focus on what I love and be around people who I incredibly love. Because my whole family was there, which was so fortunate, because I know a lot of people were torn apart from their families during this time. But I'm really glad that God gave me the opportunity to go home and just look after myself. Because I think if I hadn't, I would have probably, continued burning myself out even more to the point of, like, utter exhaustion, which would not have been good at all.
So take me through when the lockdowns are starting to ease, and I guess we get into summertime here. So where are you in terms of your recovery, and how are you able to train to prepare for this cross-country season?
So I was pretty weak when lockdown started. I remember really even struggling to do, like, just a 40-minute, like, long run. Like, I just felt incredibly dizzy and, not good at all. And, that's a hard reality of kidney damage, which is the disease I have. It's not fun, and it's going to make you feel like utter doo-doo at times, if in the polite way to put it. But
we're not live. You can.
Oh man, yeah. I'm just gonna say. Oh no, my parents are gonna watch this, so I have to watch my mouth. Sorry, mom and dad. But it makes you just feel awful. And my parents were like, "Okay, so you're gonna still run, and you're gonna take it easy." And I was like, "Okay." And coach is like, "Yeah, like, I have a list of workouts I want you to do, but don't overwork yourself. Like, this is your time." And I was like, sweet. I have me time now. So I really just took it as a day-by-day thing. If I was feeling really good and if classes had gone well for the day, I was like, okay, we'll go on a longer run. If I had emotionally really hard day, if something had really upset my anxiety or just really, upset a lot of pain, then I would, modify it to what I needed to do. But I knew that running would really be a good outlet, and it would really be good time for me to process everything. And also, I know I bash on North Carolina weather a lot for being so incredibly back and forth, but North Carolina in the springtime is at its peak. It is beautiful, just 60, 70 degree weather, low humidity, a little rain here and there, but honestly ideal running weather. So it was really nice coming back to a place where it's like just beautiful weather and just ideal running conditions. Everything's blooming, it's just gorgeous out, there's a lot of wildlife, which is really exciting. And also it's kind of nice because not a lot of people were out. So I really got that good alone time out of the house while also being, socially distant and pandemic safe. And honestly, I think that's why, summer training was so successful, because as the summer went on, it was really infuriating to train by myself and not really because my brother would erg, my mom would walk, my dad would do some exercise here and there, but none of them are runners. No hate to them. But it was really hard just not being able to text my former high school teammates and be like, hey, want to run? Because we weren't allowed to do that. But honestly, I think that just alone time was so good for me. And it really made, coming back to Gordon even more worth it. Because I think if I had surrounded myself with a ton of people when I knew I needed time to take to myself in order to heal properly, I think it would have come back to Gordon honestly exhausted. So, it was a lot of long solo runs. It was a lot of listening to running podcasts and true podcasts here and there. But, it was really worth it in the end. And I'm really glad that, I just got sent home to North Carolina just to kind of connect with the state that, I've grown up in for so long, and really just get to run in its glorious nature, which is so much fun. So, yeah.
So we get back here in
Yes.
August.
Yes.
How's the semester gone for you, trying to reopen in the middle of a pandemic, and how do you think Gordon's handled it?
I think, honestly, this semester has been a lot more challenging than I thought. I think solely just because I've come to realize that I, as someone that is still struggling with sickness and a lot of hurt from last year, I still have a long ways to go when it comes to healing. And, I still have a lot of progress to get on that. But yet I have already conquered and made so much progress already. So that's been really hard, just adjusting to, trying to like just manage my own life, but then, manage pandemic life, then also take care of my mental health, yet then also be advocating for social justice and reforms in that matter. But honestly, coming back to Gordon, I was paranoid just about seeing how they'd handle it, because I know a lot of colleges back in North Carolina had shut within the first week. But Gordon, I think they're really smart by making sure everyone wore a mask, everyone stayed 6 feet apart. If we're going to have events, then like outside, then like chapel, then we're going to be 10 feet apart and everyone has to wear a mask. We're going to live stream a lot of events, and even giving the students the choice whether they want to be on campus or whether they don't want to be on campus. I think that was a really smart decision. And obviously it's sad because I haven't seen some of the people I wanted to. But I think, giving that students, what makes them feel most comfortable and safe was a really smart decision. Do I agree with everything that's happened? No. But do I think, as a school that is trying to make an effort, I think we've done a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So in terms of cross country,
yes.
So we mentioned the Star Turn a Boo right now,
yes.
hopefully not for much longer. But
woohoo.
I guess you got to do a couple of meets,
I
right?
did. I got to do 2.
Right, so tell me how those went.
They went really well. The first cross country meet, I was terrified for, honestly. I was really nervous. It was my first race since February, and it was my second race since getting diagnosed and learning how to do that. And I sadly, although it was really great and it was a lot of fun, I think I just didn't have the confidence in myself that I needed in order to perform really well. And I did pretty decent. But looking back, I think I probably could have done a lot better if I just said, Annabel, you've already worked so hard in this first month. Don't be afraid to give it your all. But the second race came around, and honestly, that was just, really fun because I got to run, was it a 2K or is it a 3K?
I think it was a 2K.
It was a 2K. And I was really excited to do that because I had never run a 2K before on the track. And that was really, fun. I got put in a good group. I had Megan and Amanda, which helped me pace. I felt really good. I think I just really focused on form in that race and kind of just like let my body relax and treated it like it was a tempo workout, which really helped. And then we did the 4x4, which was honestly just really chaotic and really stressful because, I'm learning, a new type of handoff the night before.
Was that your first relay?
That was my first relay. It was. So it was very chaotic, very stressful. But, I was running next to Allison and Liz, who are both typically sprinters. So that was really terrifying when as soon as I turned the corner and cut in, I just see Liz already at the 200 meter mark and Allison's probably like 50 meters out. And I'm just like, you know what? My baton is in the wrong hand. I am really just flailing limbs right now. Let's just make these last 300 count and just make an effort. So it was frustrating in the moment, but honestly, I can just look back and laugh. Like, I am not a 400 runner meter whatsoever, but it was just honestly humbling and just really funny just getting to see me just kind of freak out doing one lap around the track.
So how did the stress fracture happen?
Oh, yes, the stress fracture. Oh, man. So, it was after actually that race. I remember being like, oh, my foot feels like oddly uncomfortable. But I remember, like, I have really high arches. So I was like, oh, I get foot, like, pain all the time. I have delicate dancer feet because grew up, I was about, like, ballerina for a little while. It's fine. And then the weekend went on and Monday came and I was like, oh, this really doesn't feel good. And I remember on the Monday run, I said to Megan, I was like, oh, my foot really hurts. And she was like, you should go back. I was like, no, I can grow up. I'm just being whiny. I'm fine. And then Tuesday comes along and I'm like, wow, this really doesn't feel good. And I remember we're doing intervals and I get to the last interval and I forget who I was racing against or going against, but I could tell they were pushing the pace. And I was like, I'm really bad. If someone pushes the pace, I'm going to push it as well, which was really, really stupid. And it's like the last 100 meters in the interval, I press my foot down, just taking out like some longer strides. And I'm just like, oh my word, something just popped. And I was like, this doesn't feel good, but I don't want to stop because I'm doing really well. And I crossed the finish line. And I don't even remember what happened. I think I remember just hobbling. And Evan is just looking at me like, what on God's green earth are you doing right now? And I was just like, my foot really hurts and I can't walk on it. And he was like, are you okay? I was like, no. And then I remember just the next day, like waking up, because everyone's like, ice it. So I iced it, you know, I tried walking around on it, and my roommate was like, you're limping so bad, you need to go get some crutches. And I talked to some people. I talked to my mom back home, who's an athletic director, and she was like, yeah, you need to go get crutches. So I went, they looked at it, and they're like, yeah, probably looks like a stress fracture. Here's some crutches. Went a week later, got some x-rays. So like, oh yeah, this is a stress fracture. So I got put in the boot, got given crutches, you know, everything in between. And that was now, a month ago? And here we are, and now we're in the final stretch of the boot. So it's been a chaotic but good month, honestly, being in the boot.
So you're going to be ready for track?
Oh, yes.
Lord willing.
Yes. These next 2 months of just break and rest, I am obviously going to take it at a good pace. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm not going to just think, I'm just cramping up. I'm going to really respect it. But I'm going to train hard. I think not running has just reminded me even more, oh my word, how much I love this sport and how I wouldn't trade it for the world, even though it has caused me so much emotion in so many different ways. But I'm going to be ready for it. I'm a little scared just because I don't want to get injured, but I have to, really believe in myself and just say, hey, we're going to go for it. And like you said, we're going to be ready.
So what goals do you have for the next couple of years? Assuming COVID allows us to have
that's a good question.
A full season and everything. What do you want to accomplish?
Ideally, like so many runners, I think getting a school record would just be really fun. In high school, I really wanted to, but getting anxiety and IBS within a year really threw that all off, So it would be really nice to get a school record, I think, at one point or another. But again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how my body reacts, and we'll have to see with timing. But honestly, I think the biggest thing I want out of these next, 2.5 years is just to really become a stronger woman, not physically, just muscular and endurance wise, but also I think I want to become mentally stronger in the sense that I can really push myself as an athlete and as a young woman to become the person I want to be, and then that despite any pressure I am put under, I can take it. And it's a famous quote, as Larry Zambrini said, if I can take it, I can make it. And I want to believe that I can take it despite how hard it gets. So I think that's my biggest goal coming out of these next couple of years.
Yeah, it goes fast, doesn't it?
Oh my word, it really does. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I remember first semester sophomore year, like it was yesterday, and now I'm graduating in a few weeks, and it's like...
Isn't that nuts? Oh my word, it goes by really fast. It's
crazy
kind of scary
to think about, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so speaking of school and everything,
yes.
I know you're an art major, and that's something you're very passionate about.
Yes.
So why that major? What got you into art, and what do you want to do with that?
For sure. So I've been doing art since I was a little kiddo. I still remember the first sketch pad that was of a cow that my mom bought me when I was in preschool, and I remember being one day, these will be hung on walls and people will admire my art. And as I got older, especially when I got into high school, I had a phenomenal teacher called Banks Clark who really saw potential in me. And when I told him I really wanted to pursue visual arts for the next 4 years, he was like, great, take my classes and we'll get you there. And, throughout high school, I really dabbled in everything. I dabbled in fashion design, fashion illustration, photography, painting, watercolor, really anything I could get my hands on because I just wanted to try everything. And so when I figured out Gordon, when I got here, was doing, arts, but also they had a concentration in design, which was a bit of everything. So everything from Adobe to textiles to painting or to, graphics. I was like, great, this is what I'll focus my concentration in. And, for the longest time with arts, I've really wanted to go into fashion design and fashion journalism. However, I think the field is just too cutthroat for me. As much as I love and respect it, I think it is something that I am still incredibly terrified of and not, intimidating enough to make it in. So over quarantine, I made the decision that, if I really wanted to get into it, I'd have to go to a place like SCAD or FIT, like I mentioned earlier, but I don't really want to transfer from Gordon because I do really like it here. So I decided that, I can still love and respect the fashion industry and still advocate for change within it. However, I think, like my mom has been saying since freshman year of high school, that art therapy is something I should consider. Gordon does have a really great art program, and with a lot of art therapy programs, it's, concentrate in the art, get really good at art and being able to have good communication skills and the psychology can follow. So I would love to one day, have the opportunity to help others who, specifically teenagers and young adults who are struggling from childhood trauma or, a mental illness, and just give them a space that way they can, produce and create art with how they're feeling or goals they want to achieve. So I've been doing art for a long time, and it's something I continue to hopefully pursue at Gordon, and I'm currently in love with and just love it so much, and I hopefully one day will become an art therapist.
What kind of classes have you taken?
I have taken drawing 1, I have taken principles and practicum, sketchbook, painting, and I've also taken it is called Design Studio, which is basically learning how to use Adobe and creating logos and graphic design, which is probably one of the hardest classes I've taken, but probably one of the most practical and the best class I've taken here so far.
Yeah, so it sounds like for design there might be, I'm speaking as a Comm Arts major, so I have to ask, there's a little bit of overlap, I guess, between the two programs, right?
For sure.
So, have you taken any comm classes?
I have. I've taken 2. So I've taken communication or perspectives on communication with Dr. Gardner, which is my first ever class, which, oh my word, such a phenomenal professor and such a phenomenal class. It's a great first class to take for comm. And then I took media and religion, which was incredibly hard, but incredibly fascinating. And
is that Dr. Yu?
That was Dr. Chu right before she left.
Okay.
But it was a really good class. I mean, a little intense at times. But those are only taken 2 I've taken so far. But, Comm Arts is my undeclared want to minor, excuse me. And so I'm excited to take more comm classes because I really appreciate the Comm Arts department here.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you wanted to pursue a minor in that, but it sounds like that's something I would love to. Doing.
Dr. Gardner is good at getting you hooked. I really didn't know I wanted a minor in. She's like, Comm Arts. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good program. Obviously, I'm biased.
Phenomenal.
But
be biased. It's good. That and the art department, I'm like, the best majors out there. My humble opinion.
Yeah, I have Dr. Gardner for my senior sem right now.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess just to wrap things up, what do you like to do for fun? What kind of entertainment do you enjoy?
Oh, I am really big on film and videography. I would like to say I'm a film connoisseur, but I'm definitely
Makes sense
not.
in the art thing, right?
Yes, I definitely love diving into good films, whether that is smaller indie films or, mainstream Oscar winners. I'm also a big, conversation gal. I love talking. I love getting to know people. So if I have the chance to grab a coffee with someone or just, get to know somebody, I will definitely take that.
Like what we're doing right now?
Yes. So when you asked me on, I was like, oh my word, we just get to talk and be honest with others. And I love getting really to know people, whether, that's the good or the bad. And honestly, I really love talking about just, being honest with people when we have those conversations about life and about things that scare us or just, what we have goals for the future and just not being afraid to be honest with one another. But on a lighter note, I also love going to art museums and just spending my entire day in galleries, just wandering around. Normally when I go back to the UK, I always go to the National Gallery and sneak in 1 or 2 exhibits. If there's a Van Gogh exhibit, I will 100% be there admiring all his work, which I find, not biased at all, absolutely incredible.
Have you been to museums here in the States?
I have. There are a couple in Raleigh that I've been to, and I saw some incredible pieces there. I have been to the National Gallery in DC. I've been to a couple in New York, my favorite being the Guggenheim, where I saw my favorite painting of all time. It's absolutely, I got horribly motion sick, oddly enough, going up the Guggenheim, because if you don't know, it's this giant, basically like dome, and you just spiral up it, and you're just going up and you're spiraling up. And my mom had just finished radiation for breast cancer treatment. And, she was coming off of that. I had something that gave me food poisoning, and we're just going up the Guggenheim, and we're like, oh my word, we feel so sick right now. But that's probably my favorite museum out here in the States because of just the artwork they have and just the architecture of it.
What's your favorite genre of film?
Ooh, I really like dramas, whether that is just history, whether that's just about like in-depth life and just trauma, or I really love just small indie films. So it's either or, so something like that. I'm not really a big like romantic person, or I'm not a horror person at all. I saw my first horror movie last year and I didn't sleep that night, so it's definitely not for me.
What are some of your favorites?
I love First Cow, which is this tiny little like A24 film about the first cow in the Pacific Northwest. It is very slow but very beautiful. I love Manchester by the Sea, which was filmed out here in, the North Shore, which really discusses life trauma and, moving on from pain, which is something I can relate to a lot. And I feel like it's a powerful movie if you want to understand someone who's struggling with a mental illness and struggling through pain. That is a great film to watch. I also really like Breathe with Andrew Garfield, about the first, man with polio to ever leave the iron lungs, and, his incredible testimony. And then another Andrew Garfield film is, oh my word, I forget what it's called, but it's based off a book, and he's this Jesuit priest that goes to Japan, and it's incredible to see their power and, how close they hold the faith to them and how badly they want to, save those who are being persecuted for believing in the faith. So it's a beautiful film that really inspired me to hold fast onto my faith and reminded me of how incredible Christ is. So those are just a list of some of my favorite films.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check those out because the only thing I know Andrew Garfield from is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man!
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I've actually have not seen the Spider-Man films, despite the fact that he is Spider-Man in those films. But yeah, he is one of probably my favorite actors of all time. I just think he is so personable, so lovely. We actually have the exact same story. He was born in America, moved to the UK. I was born in the UK, moved to America. So I was like, he gets it. So English American right there.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the Marvel franchise at all? Or, I mean, you said not his Spider-Man films, but
I haven't seen enough. Here's the thing. I respect the actors. I respect the dedication that goes into the film. I just sadly cannot stick with it. I've tried watching Marvel films before, and I get sadly confused. I feel so bad saying that because I have so much respect for the franchise. It's truly incredible. But I just can't get into the films for some reason.
Well, there's a lot to catch up on at this point.
So many. But they're so well, from what I've seen, so incredibly well done and really just beautifully put together. So a lot of respect. I just sadly have not gotten into them.
Yeah, you kind of have to start at the beginning with Iron Man.
Yes.
And then kind of work your way through to truly appreciate. I mean, Endgame's a phenomenal film.
I've heard.
It's so much better when you have the knowledge of the whole franchise to see all the callbacks to previous films.
That's what my friends said. They're like, if you're going to go see Endgame and like Infinity War and all that, get to know what happens in all the previous films that have come before. And I'm like, if that ever happens, then I will more likely do that.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it, and hope you enjoyed your time here.
I had a blast. It was really exciting getting to be on here and talking a little bit about my testimony with, getting sick but recovering from that and proving people wrong in the process.
Yeah, well, you're definitely very strong.
And thank you.
Appreciate you coming here and telling your story, and thanks. I know that hopefully, like I said, everything's kind of up in the air right now with the pandemic, but
yes, it is.
Hope you guys get the opportunity to have a season for track this year, and I know you're going to do great things. As soon
you're
as we
too kind.
Get back, so
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, have a good rest of your night.
You as well.